He was the most powerful demon lord in the entire world, but becomes a level 0 loser when he returns 500 years later. For centuries, the magical world of Elneath was a place of suffering and brutality due to the endless war between the mortal race of humans and the immortal demons. Despite the demons being superior to the humans in every way, humanity fought back fiercely until the fate of the realm rested on a battle between two men, the supreme demon lord named Veltal and mankind's hero named Graham. On the legendary day of the battle, Lord Veltal ascends from his throne to draw his sword against Graham. The mortal hero goes on the offense first by lunging at Veltal, but the demon blocks him and pushes him back. Before he can strike again, Veltal unleashes a rapid series of dark magic spells. Graham successfully shields himself against all of them, so Veltal launches his ultimate attack. In a twist that no one sees coming, Graham pierces through Veltal's magic and defeats him. Veltal congratulates Graham for beating all the odds and winning the war for the humans. But he doesn't understand why he lost because he's stronger than Graham. Graham answers that he won because as mortal humans, they understand the value of life, and so do everything in their power to live unlike the demons. Hearing this, Veltal thinks Graham is trolling him and doesn't believe him. As he slowly starts disappearing, he swears to come back soon and bring darkness to humans again, and Graham promises to be there to defeat him, and they finally bid farewell. 500 years later, Lord Veltal returns to the world by reincarnation, and is immediately greeted by his most loyal servant, Machina. He looks around the ruins he is reborn in with confusion and asks where they are, to which Machina replies that they are in the wrecked remains of a demon dungeon that is below a former Nick subway station. Veltal doesn't know what a subway is because he hasn't watched any K-dramas, so he ignores that and eagerly tells Machina that she should join him in his domination of the world like in the old times. This is when she reveals that the world they were supposed to rule was destroyed long ago. She elaborates that 80 years ago, a catastrophic event named Fantagen occurred when their world Elneath fused with a world from an alternate dimension named Earth. During the first few years, most of the population was wiped out and wars broke out among cities, but eventually, the advanced industrial world of Earth, who possessed advanced tech, and the magic civilization of Elneath joined hands to create the new world with the gift of Imagineering. Once Veltal walks out and sees the outside world, he freezes in place with total shock. He can't believe that mortal humans could ever achieve such an advanced stage of civilization. As he stares in disbelief, a random man bumps into him and simply walks past like nothing happened. Seeing this, Veltal decides to make his presence known and make the humans bow to him. Despite Machina's attempts to stop him from embarrassing himself, he casts a spell to clear the cloudy sky. But nothing happens, and the few people who notice make fun of him for using weather magic. Right after, alarms blare all around and Machina starts dragging him away from the area because using grand magic is against the laws. While fleeing the scene, Veltal gets a weird feeling and catches the glimpse of a mysterious cloaked figure walking away from him. Once they safely get away, Machina sits him down and updates him about everything that happened. She explains that after his death, the demons agreed to a ceasefire with the mortals which lasted until 80 years ago when Elneath and Earth fused. In the chaos of the catastrophe, the immortals became scattered while the major industries organized themselves and began a campaign against the reign of the demons. Since then, immortals were treated as vile creatures beneath people, and as technology rapidly advanced, anti-immortal weapons were mass-produced and used to eliminate demons. Veltal asks what happened to the 6 Dark Peers, which is a cool title for his strongest followers. Machina responds that 3 of the peers' whereabouts are unknown, and one of them, called Zenol, sacrificed himself by acting as a decoy to their enemy so that she could escape, since she and another missing peer were the only ones who knew how to activate Veltal's resurrection spell. Veltal admits that Zenol was always a faithful servant and then asks what happened to the 6th peer named Marcus. Machina quickly changes the subject and decides to get him a drink because the air in the city is too polluted for him to breathe. Left alone, Veltal looks around until he notices a shift in the ether around him and traces it to a young girl who is lurking around the giant billboards suspiciously. Suddenly, all the billboards at the square change from the usual ads to spoilers of JJK, which causes public outrage. The ads return very quickly, but Veltal approaches the girl to ask her about what she did. She tries to deny it at first, but he points out how he saw the ether change around her, which catches her off guard because she didn't expect anyone to notice that while she was hacking. When asked how he could tell, he proudly spreads his arms and says he's a demon lord. She thinks he's a Delulu dummy, but he doesn't get the hint and asks her how she did what she did. She explains that she's an ether hacker who does dangerous missions for a living. But this little prank was a form of activism, as she believes the major corporation named IHME, which is behind the billboard ads, heavily censors the internet when the internet should be a free, lawless place. The pretentious hippie then goes on to explain the details of her hacking. But Veltal quickly gets bored and interrupts to ask her if she knows anybody named Marcus. She immediately points to a tall building in the distance and tells him that the only Marcus she knows is the CEO of IHME, which owns that building. He immediately heads out there and asks the receptionist at the lobby for Marcus. Another woman approaches him and introduces herself as Marcus' personal secretary and that they have been waiting for him. She takes him to the top floor of the skyscraper, where ugly Marcus is sitting on a throne and looks down on Veltal. Veltal points out how it's disrespectful for Marcus to stay seated, but Marcus completely ignores this. Veltal then tells him to join him and rebuild the immortal kingdom and rule the world again, but Marcus simply laughs and flat out rejects him. Once Marcus refuses to even call Veltal his lord, Veltal becomes furious and decides to fight him, but before he can unleash his magic, the secretary swings her sword at him. He immediately senses the power of armament forgery magic on the blade and is shocked. She only backs down after Marcus orders her to. Marcus finally lowers himself while saying that Veltal has grown much weaker because before, the wound from the sword would have healed itself within the second it had been formed. He mocks Veltal's desire to rule the world when he's no longer as strong and has lost the support and fear his name once had. Instead, he tells Veltal to either bend the knee to him or get lost. Veltal prepares to fight him, but Marcus instantly neutralizes his magic by chanting the words Spellbreaker. Veltal is lost for words, so Marcus explains that he was able to defeat Veltal's most powerful magical abilities without having a talent for magic himself, thanks to his company's gadget named Familia, which is a product of Imagineering. A projector then plays an ad for Familia, which explains that the device removes the need to perform some critical steps of magic and allows the user to choose any spell they want and activate it by speaking a simple incantation. This grants anybody of any race or age the power to perform magic. Marcus then adds that he made sure to develop Familia so that it can't meld into the bodies of higher beings like Veltal to prevent any chance of him using it to defeat Marcus. Veltal tries to fight him again, but Marcus deactivates his spell with Spellbreaker again and explains that the magic processing speed of Familia surpasses Veltal's, making him too slow for the current world. Veltal asks him why he's doing this, to which an annoyed Marcus yells out that he always hated Veltal for being an arrogant and greedy dictator and that he only swore loyalty to protect himself. He then rudely says goodbye by casting multiple blood sword spells, which pushes Veltal out of the tower. After Veltal hits the ground, he scurries into a dark alley to recover from his injuries. He stumbles out into the street and bumps into a bunch of goons. He cusses them out, but they end up kicking his ass too and leave him lying unconscious on a pile of trash bags where Machina finds him and frantically tries to wake him up. After returning to normal, they take a train to her house when she apologizes for not telling him about Marcus' betrayal, which led to this humiliating incident. Veltal comforts her by saying that if she told him, he would have had an even stronger desire to go and see it for himself. Once they reach her house, Veltal thinks she's messing with him because it's just a tiny room, but she explains that you need to sell a kidney to even buy a Fortnite skin in this economy. Veltal realizes all the difficulties Machina had to go through after his death and hugs her as appreciation for staying loyal to him through all of it, which causes her to cry tears of happiness. That night, Machina dreams about the day when she was almost killed by a mob of humans. They blamed her for all the troubles they experienced and tied her up to throw her into a pit of lava. She accepted her end as she fell toward her death, but suddenly, a black orb surrounded her and stopped her fall. It took her safely back up the cliff and transformed into Veltal's true form. This marked the moment she first met Demon Lord Veltal, who then invited her to join his side. In the morning, she wakes Veltal up with a huge meal for breakfast, which includes dishes he has never seen before. He finishes everything and tells her the food is delicious, which makes her blush. While drinking tea, he asks if she knows the whereabouts of any other immortals, to which she responds that she knows many immortals managed to escape during the Immortal Hunt campaign, but doesn't really know where exactly they are. Veltal then asks if the hunt is still going on, to which she replies that they ended decades ago and public attitude towards immortals has improved since then. But it achieved the goals of Marcus, who is the mastermind behind the whole movement. Once things had calmed down, she had gone to check on her close allies, Ornard and Palmlock, But their house was wrecked already, and the only thing left behind was a note with the words, "Immortal Furnace." Right then, Voltal reaches out to grab his teacup, but ends up dropping it out of pain. He explains that it seems he is still not fully healed from his injuries last night, and adds that the weather spell he cast to clear the clouds would have worked if he had his usual strength, proving that everything has weakened greatly compared to his previous self. He realizes that it's because the main source of his power, which is the faith people have in his name, has greatly declined in this age. Machina worries that if things go on like this, he will slowly be forgotten, but Voltal remains calm and decides that he needs to reclaim his faith again. He thinks it's better to go outside and explore the new world instead of rot in bed, so Machina suggests they go shopping. They first go to buy new clothes for him, so she leads him to a small room with a platform in the middle. She makes him stand on the platform to take a 3D scan of his body while apologizing for not making high-quality clothes herself. But Voltal confidently says that he's so hot that he doesn't even need to wear clothes, an idea which she quickly shuts down. After the scan is completed, she asks him if he has any style preference for clothes, but it's immediately clear he has no clothes. So she asks Chatty's new friend-elect to select the best option for basic streetwear. Once the outfit is made, Machina finds it hideous, but Voltal turns out to be a supreme fanboy and begs for the ugly tracksuit. After grabbing the items, Machina walks out of the store, but Voltal reminds her to pay with coins. She explains that she made the payment digitally instead, which goes over Boomer Veltal's head. While eating, Voltal wants to learn more about Marcus Familia Gadget, saying that he is impressed by its abilities. She explains that even though its main purpose is magic, it is mostly used by people to gather information, go shopping and ragebait on Twitter without needing to hold anything. Voltal asks if it ever gets in the way by being implanted at the back of the neck, to which she admits that it was slightly uncomfortable at first, but it's very difficult to get by in daily life without it. Finally, she points out having one doesn't automatically make life better. When they return, Voltal is reminded of the state Machina lives in and states that he is going to look for a job. Machina frantically objects, but he calmly tells her that the times have changed and he is no longer the all-knowing demon lord he once was, so he must also move on and do what's necessary. She tries to convince him by saying she'll take up even more jobs, but he says it would be unfair for him to slack off at home all day while she works non-stop to provide food, clothes, and shelter. He then says that he has not yet given up on taking over the world and that if she's willing and patient, he will accomplish it with her someday. Feeling new hope for the first time in centuries, Machina kneels and swears her oath to serve him again. Later that day, Voltal gets ready to look for a job, but no matter how hard he tries, Machina insists on going with him. Finally, he manages to convince her to chill out by saying that if he fails to find any work due to bad luck, he will let her be his sugar mommy. Hearing this, she backs down and gives him a small phone to contact her and pay for food. Soon after he begins his job hunt, he sits down in defeat because he realizes he doesn't know what type of work is available and how to apply. He wonders if he should call Machina after all, but his pride is too big to do that. At that moment, the tempting smell of ramen from a nearby shop reaches him, making his stomach grumble. This indicates just how weak he has become because he hasn't felt hunger in 1,000 years. Next, he notices a beggar asking people for change and reads his sign which says that he lost his leg in the war. This makes him realize that he's at least lucky enough to have the physical ability to work. So he gets off his butt and yells out in the middle of the street that he needs a job because he's broke. He honestly shouts that he has 0 skills, but he's willing to do anything. An annoyed man appears behind him and tells him to do this at the commercial guild. He asks Voltal if he has a citizen ID, but after seeing his blank face, realizes that he is an illegal immigrant. He tells Voltal to get out because he could cause trouble to this turf which belongs to him. But before going, he gives Voltal a resume form and explains that he should write his work experience on it and submit it to the guild. But there's no guarantee he will get a job. After giving him directions, he advises against applying to any company under AHMI, especially those doing construction, because he's never heard anything good about them. Voltal thanks him for all his help and leaves for the guild. There, he proudly presents his resume to an old clerk who reads out with confusion all the weird skills Voltal has written, including military strategy mastermind, architect of dungeons, and evil dictator. Voltal yaps about how he single-handedly won a war, but the old man seems to have never heard of it. The man then questions if he made a mistake while writing that his last position was 500 years ago, but Voltal doubles down. Having heard enough, the Baldy informs Veltal that they have no work for him considering his garbage resume and interview, and because the company doesn't offer jobs to people without a familia. Veltal returns home with a shattered confidence and asks Machina for validation, which she very happily gives. He then asks her if there is anyone in the present world who can give advice, to which she says that she has one friend. Upon Veltal's request, she invites the friend for lunch, but when the friend arrives it turns out to be the ether hacker from before. She introduces herself as Taka, and explains that she first met Machina on a Demon Lord fan page. After noticing the death glares from Machina, she quickly shuts up. Veltal notices that Taka has a different familia from Machina and touches it. Machina explains that he has the Sage Eyes ability, which allows him to sense the flow of mana and understand the nature of any object he touches. He admits that he understands most of the familia's working, but there's still a lot to unpack. Then, Machina gets to the point and explains Veltal's job situation. After hearing his conditions of not having a familia, but wanting a job that will spread his name to the world, Taka suggests being a Twitch streamer. Veltal is curious about that, and Taka explains that he will just have to show his face on screen, play some games, do anything that entertains his audience, and then hope that people donate money to him. She tells him that if he becomes successful in this line, he can become a celebrity in a very short time. Veltal is not sure if he can do this, but Taka assures him that he will be fine. She is willing to give her old equipment to him so that he can get started, but Machina sternly refuses her offer. She is against the Demon Lord taking up such an unstable and risky job because he deserves a steady and hefty income. Taka tells her to stop being such a granny. She says that Veltal has got a great face, attractive voice, and a charming aura, so people will naturally be drawn to him. Well, Machina can't deny that, and then Taka says that being an entertainer is a perfectly fine job and she shouldn't judge streamers. Finally, the decision comes down to Veltal, who admits that he has no choice and he is going to place his trust in Taka. Later, as Machina takes a bath, Veltal scrolls through the Ethernet to find that it is a vast and uncontrollable amount of information that can be shared at incredible speeds. While this has made the life of people easy, it also has a dark side. People get over-dependent on the Ethernet and it kind of swallows their individuality and enthusiasm about real life. This causes them to fall into hopelessness and sins, which is Veltal's territory. Just as he is thinking that, Machina comes out of the bath, not wearing even a towel, and drinks juice in front of Veltal. The moment she realizes that she gave him a full frontal view, she dresses up and apologizes for her unrefined display. Veltal tells her that he doesn't mind because she looked great without clothes, although the narcissist in him says that she was not as great as him. Soon, Taka comes there with her old gaming gear, and Machina is still uncertain about letting Veltal stream. Taka says that she knows how to market Veltal perfectly, and she sets up the game setup. She hands Veltal a controller and is about to teach him how to use it, but he uses his Sage Eyes abilities to instantly learn how to use it. Taka is impressed, and when Veltal chooses Dark Souls 3 as his first game, she thinks that he can easily beat it because of his Sage Eyes. However, my 90-year-old blind grandma with arthritis plays better than him, because he dies in the tutorial every single time. He says that he is not used to the controller yet, and Taka calls it cap. Machina is worried that their plan is falling through, but Taka says this is an opportunity. She plans to use Veltal's charismatic personality and attractive appearance, and pair them with his terrible gameplay to lure viewers, because when female streamers do it, it always seems to work. After that, Taka says that they also need to figure out an introduction for Veltal that will get the first-time viewers hooked. Machina suggests that he recites one of his war declarations, and Veltal likes the idea. He recites a declaration of war against the mortal humans, and while Machina likes it, Taka thinks that it is not catchy enough. She says that they will think about that later, and first, they need to learn the basics of streaming. First of all, she tells Veltal to stream as much as he can every day, even if no one is watching him. He can talk about any random thing if he doesn't have anything to say related to the game. She also warns him not to use racial or sexual remarks because they will earn him backlash, and dropping N-words may get him banned for life. The next bit of advice is for Machina to never appear on the camera even by mistake, and to stay absolutely quiet while Veltal is streaming. For the final part, Taka decides to contact some of her well-to-do streamer friends to promote Veltal, and her tactics seem to work. Thousands of people begin to watch Veltal's streams within the first couple days, and the comment section is full of remarks about how he sucks. Veltal fully indulges the viewers, telling them that they are right, and he doesn't mind their harsh comments. He tries to reply to every comment, and soon, he hits the 500,000 viewer mark. He shows his emotions freely on the stream, getting people more involved. Taka asks him why is he not reporting the negative comments, and he replies that both negative and positive emotions give him power. Moreover, he wants all the viewers he has to keep watching him, and banning anyone will not be good for that. He continues streaming while living a peaceful life with Machina, and soon, he gets over 1 million subscribers. He has also come up with a catchy introduction, now where he sounds like baby boomers when they try to use Gen Z slangs. Today is a special stream, because he finally clears the game after months of playing it, and his viewers congratulate him. Veltal thanks them, saying that it was inevitable that he would win in the end because he is the Demon Lord. With that, he ends the stream, and Machina comes there to greet him. Veltal then goes outside because he has to run some errands, but to his utter shock, he finds the hero Graham in the slums. He can't believe that his greatest rival is down on his luck too, and reaches out to him. He takes him to a noodle shop, and Graham can only think about the past when he was out gathering medicinal herbs for his sister, and one of Veltal's 6 peers burnt his village to ash. He is snapped out of his thoughts by Veltal telling him that this is the best noodle shop in the area. He doesn't respond to Veltal, and the mood becomes awkward. Luckily, their order gets ready soon, and Graham says that he feels it odd to eat with the man who killed his family and countless friends. Veltal says that even Graham killed thousands of his underlings, but he doesn't feel any sort of resentment towards him right now. He says that their conflict should be a thing of past, and then asks the more important question about why is Graham still alive. He wants to know if he has turned into an immortal demon too, but Graham says that he has not. Instead, after the war, he was blessed by goddess Meldia, who granted him eternal youth. He can't die of old age, but that doesn't mean that he is immortal. He begins telling Veltal that once the immortal war was over, a war broke out among humans, and he was called to fight in it and kill the people whom he once swore to protect. Graham says he felt like a clown that time, but his worst days came after that. Once peace was restored and the humans no longer needed him, they turned him into a target. He says that he has killed too many people, both humans and immortals. He declares that the world no longer needs a hero, and it doesn't need a demon lord either. He then asks Veltal why did he want to rule the world. Veltal says that he wanted to make the world a peaceful place, and that comes as the greatest shock to Graham. Veltal explains that with a few exceptions, all the immortals were once ordinary humans who got their immortality through various means. He says that even though they were same at the core, humans hated the immortals, and the immortals considered them as inferior. This was the cause of their conflict, and Veltal planned to end this by making everyone equal under his rule. Graham says that peace could never come through such means, but Veltal says that they should agree to disagree. Graham then leaves abruptly, thanking Veltal for the free food. After that, Veltal heads back home, but on the way, he sees an ogre threatening Taka for an extortion. When she calls him a brainless musclehead, he gets furious and tries to punch her, but Veltal stops him. The ogre recognizes him as the guy he beat a couple months ago, and asks him if he is here for a refill. Taka is worried about Veltal, but he tells her that he is much stronger now thanks to his million subscribers, and he just wants to try out how powerful he is. The ogre punches him, which Veltal easily blocks, and then the ogre lets out a powerful wind attack. The wind attack crushes Veltal's arm, but he regenerates it instantly and then knocks the ogre out with a flick of his fingers. Taka thanks him, and then informs him that this guy was actually her bodyguard, but he was demanding double pay for no reason. Veltal apologizes for knocking him out, but Taka requests him to become her bodyguard instead. They go to a warehouse, where Taka explains that she has a mission to steal something, and Veltal is supposed to guard her while she does that. She begins hacking into the warehouse system, but Veltal is not so patient, and he immediately charges towards the building, kicking down the doors and knocking out the guards. He enters the warehouse where some mafia bosses are conducting a secret deal, and Taka is impressed by his daring. While the mafia bosses question each other about the intruder, Veltal notices a small cube on the table. He immediately contacts Taka via telepathy and asks if that box is the thing she is aiming to steal. Taka agrees, and then asks Veltal when and how did he get a familia to communicate with her like this. He tells her that he doesn't need one, because he can copy its functions using his skills. The mafia bosses are finally done blaming each other for the intruder, and they decide to ask Veltol who the hell is he. In response, Veltol recites his cringy introduction from his Twitch streams, but the old mafia bosses don't get what he is doing. Veltol is a bit disappointed because he thought that he would be more popular, and thinks that he needs to work harder. One of the gangsters pulls a gun on him, but Veltol simply uses his magic to harden his body and deflects all the bullets. He then rushes ahead with great speed. The Foxman tries to shoot him again, but Veltol moves so fast that he can't even take aim at him, and then knocks him out. He attacks the remaining two people, and Taka decides to assist him by hacking the vision of the person with the gun and making him shoot his underling instead of Veltol. Once he is knocked out, Veltol contacts Taka, and she is really impressed that he managed to bring down the mafia bosses single-handedly. She is about to come to his location to collect the box, but Veltol senses danger and tells her to stay hidden. Suddenly, someone covered with an invisibility cloak appears on the scene and attacks Veltol without warning. Luckily, he can locate the invisible enemy using his ether flow and shoots him to tear off the invisibility cloak. The enemy throws off the damaged cloak, revealing it to be a huge mecha armor. Veltol is impressed, but Taka recognizes it as a 4th generation Magino gear, which is something that the Mafia should not be able to get their hands on. She tells Veltol to run away because he won't be able to beat the mecha, but he takes up the challenge and starts shooting it. The mecha takes out a gun from its armor and begins shooting Veltol, who evades all its attacks. He then leaps at the mecha, giving it a clear chance to shoot him mid-air, but the mecha misses all the shots. Veltol uses his dark magic attack to blast it, but that is not enough to bring the mecha down. Veltol wants to test his limits and summons his sword. The mecha responds by turning its gun into a sword as well, and then releasing a huge amount of heat from its body. Veltol charges at it, and their clash is powerful enough to rip the floor apart. They keep exchanging blows, and then the mecha suddenly puts his entire power into the sword, slashing Veltol's arm and then his head. The mecha operator reports to his headquarters that he eliminated the enemy, but Veltol's severed head says psych. He patches up his injured body quickly and tells the mecha that he fought well, but his lack of experience clearly showed. To reward him for this good fight, Veltol decides to summon his real weapon, a dark sword that can kill even gods. The mecha driver is terrified of him now, and Veltol makes quick work of it, chopping its limbs to make it useless. After that, he plans to interrogate the mecha driver, but rather than being captured by the enemy, he decides to perform a self-checkout to the afterlife. Soon, Taka comes running there and tells Veltol that she was scared to death when she saw his head being sliced off, but he says it's no big deal. She then finds Igami's logo on the mecha, and realizes that this case is getting even more shady and dangerous than she thought at first. Veltol then asks her about the cube, and she says that it is a data storage device, and her client wants the information inside it. She says that taking a quick peek won't hurt anyone, and unlocks the cube to reveal a list. Veltol can recognize all the names on the list as his subordinates, who are all immortal, but luckily, Machina's name is not there. Taka decides to contact her client to learn what does the list signify, but he doesn't pick up the calls, so she decides to pay him a visit. They go to the client's building, and Taka hacks into the security system to let themselves in. They get into the elevator, and Veltol asks her to let him press the buttons, because he enjoys doing that. She tells him to get a better hobby, and then tells him that they need to go to different floors in a sequence before they can reach the 13th floor where her client lives because that guy is a bit paranoid. As they reach the 13th floor, Taka asks Veltol to wait while the client comes out because he has laid many traps in the way. However, Veltol can tell that all the traps have been disarmed, and he confidently walks towards the apartment. Taka rings the doorbell, but the client doesn't answer, and then Veltol finds that the door is unlocked. They enter the apartment, and Taka searches for her client, but to her horror, he is already dead. Veltol looks at him, and finds that he is the same beggar he once met while looking for a job. Taka says that he often used to disguise himself as a hobo to collect information. Veltol then looks at his wounds and finds that he has been killed about a week ago. However, the wounds clearly tell that it was not a crime of passion, but a cold-blooded murder. He believes that someone hired a hitman to take him out, and also destroyed his familia. Taka thinks that the hitman's goal was to destroy the information in the familia, and she begins fearing that it is somehow connected to the job she took. Veltol thinks that now the list is their only clue, but Taka thinks there is another way. She begins fumbling around the table and finds a laptop in a hidden drawer. To her surprise, it doesn't require a password to open, and the files are all damaged and corrupted. Veltal figures out that there is a pattern in the way the files are arranged, and when he tells this to Taka, she quickly figures out the trick. She easily cracks it, and finds a video clip titled The Immortal Furnace. She plays the video, and her client says that if someone is watching this video, it means he is already dead. He then talks about how the prosperity of this city is built on the back of a great evil. The root of the problem is the ether reactor that powers the city of Shinjuku. The ether reactors draw in the power from the ether lines within the earth and convert them to electricity and data, but they need to be placed on top of at least 10 ether lines to function. However, in Shinjuku, there are only 2 lines, and it gets the rest of its energy by consuming the souls of immortals using dark magic and forbidden rituals. The codename for this secret project is Immortal Furnace, and the Ilame Company was the one who created it. The man says that the people at Ihime treat immortals as fuel, and they simply call them firewood. According to the information he has gathered, the first immortal to be fed to the furnace as firewood was Zenal, one of the Demon Lord's 6 dark peers. After that, countless other immortals were burnt inside it, and the immortal hunt was just a guise prepared by the Ihime Company to get his hands on them. The client says that he had been looking into this matter, but Ihime found out about him and sent assassins to kill him earlier too. That is why he decided to lay low, but still got information about the mafia bosses selling a list of immortals to the Ihime so that they could use them as the new batch of firewood. That is why he sent Taka to retrieve it for him. The man claims that he knows that if the immortal furnace is shut down, the entire city will stop functioning, but he believes that it is the right thing to do. However, he doesn't have much hope that anyone can stop this atrocity and save the immortals. He believes that the only person capable of doing this would be the King of Immortals, but he is not sure if he exists anymore. Taka trembles with rage as the video ends, but Veltal is rather calm. He asks her to step back and let him take charge of this case, because she might get killed before she can do anything just like her client. Veltal says that this is a problem of immortals, and as their king, it is his duty to resolve it. Taka accepts his decision, and then Veltal also decides to tell Machina about the immortal furnace. He tries contacting her through telepathy, but to his shock, she doesn't respond, and he worries that she is in danger as well. Meanwhile, a drone is spying on Machina's apartment, and she is still safe inside, but without any idea of the things coming for her. While she wonders what to cook for dinner, someone rings the doorbell, and she goes out to check who is it. Just as she opens the door, she sees the ugly face of Marcus and immediately blasts him with her most powerful magic spell, sending him out of her house. Marcus is not even scratched by that attack, and he tells Machina that this is no way to greet an old friend. She comes out of the house, wearing her demonic battle armor, and tells Marcus to stop playing the fool because she knows he is here to destroy her. She disables her familia and goes offline before attacking Marcus. She summons a magic spell at his feet, releasing a powerful blast of magic, but he simply hops away and summons blood swords to attack her. Machina counters by summoning magic arrows, and their attacks cancel out. Marcus says that it seems that they are evenly matched, when suddenly, Machina leaps at him through the cloud and grabs his hand. Before he even has the time to react, she plants a spell on his wrist and then detonates it, causing his arm to fly off. However, he regenerates it almost instantly and then summons an advanced form of his blood sword spells. He rains them on Machina, who uses a magic barrier to protect herself. However, Marcus has more tricks up his sleeve, and he causes all the blood swords to explode with a snap of his fingers. The entire area comes under the range of the explosions, but Machina is still unharmed. She regrets not getting fire insurance for her place and says that she is going to send the invoice for the damage to Ihime. A voice tells her to send it directly to the CO's address, and then suddenly, Marcus' secretary comes out of the smoke to attack Machina. Luckily, Machina uses an illusion spell to avoid her sword because she always knew that the cowardly Marcus would not come alone. She is about to blast the secretary off to oblivion, when suddenly, Marcus uses the special ability of his familia and disrupts her spell. Machina is confused, and using this chance, his secretary stabs her from behind and pins her to the ground. Machina loses all her strength and can't even move, and Marcus tells his secretary that she did a good job. She scolds him for being too playful and not shutting Machina's familia from the get-go, and he replies that he couldn't pass out on a chance like this. He then turns to Machina, who curses him, but this ugly pervert gets a raise out of it. She asks him what did he do, and he replies that he just shut down her familia to render her powerless. Machina can't believe this because her familia is a standalone variety and it was offline, so it couldn't have been hacked as well. Marcus tells her that it would be impossible for others, but he is the guy who invented the familia. He tells her about the latest experiment his company is doing to create the advanced familia, and he just used a prototype to force shut her familia. He loudly declares that he is invincible with the power of technology, and Machina asks him why is he doing this. He tells her that he wants to become the true demon lord, but doing so using force to conquer others is too barbaric. He says that all he needs is complete control over information and technology, and the entire world will be in his hands. He stomps on Machina, telling her that he will become the perfect demon lord who will be even stronger than Veltal, and she can only cry as he takes her away to be sent to the immortal furnace. Soon, Veltal and Taka reach there and only finds charred remains of the building. The only thing that survived is a PS4 controller, and that reminds Veltal of the moments he spent with Machina. Taka snaps his out of it and tells him that they need to find Machina before anything happens to her. Veltal doesn't have any idea how to do that, and Taka asks him to leave it to her. She points towards a drone, telling him that they will use it to find her. She explains that there are a lot of delivery drones in the city, and she can hack them to find the video footage they recorded. She begins hacking the drone company's servers and finds images of the explosion being caused by magic attacks. Veltal had suspected as much, and then Taka finds a snap of Marcus walking to Machina's door, and the secretary hiding downstairs. Taka sends him a slideshow of pictures that show what exactly happened, and the last images are Marcus and his secretary taking Machina to the forbidden part of the ether reactor. Veltal is full of rage, and he thanks Taka for her help as he begins to head to the reactor. She stops him, telling him that going there will be dangerous as there will be too many mecha soldiers guarding the area. She says that if only Veltal had some backup, things would be easy for him, and he remembers a guy who can provide him with the necessary fighting strength. He immediately goes to meet the hero Graham, who is not interested in talking to him anymore. However, Veltal swallows his bride and kneels before him as he begs for his help. Graham is taken aback to see this, but he hears Veltal out and learns the entire story. Veltal again asks him for help, but Graham begins counting his sins. He says that Veltal and his immortal army waged war wherever they went, killing millions of people, but now he is pathetically bowing his head before his archenemy. Graham asks him if he thinks this is enough to earn his cooperation after everything he has done, and Veltal only grits his teeth. Graham asks him if he is willing to shut down the furnace and destroy the peace and happiness of the entire city just to save one woman, and Veltal suddenly stands up, saying that only weaklings make such choice. He declares that he will save Machina and then solve the problems of this city because it is going to be his territory one day as the Demon Lord. His words move Graham, who gets up and says that he thought that he had given up on being the hero a long time ago, but a spark is still left inside him. He climbs down the stairs, telling Veltal that he is not helping him but a random woman who got kidnapped, because that is what the hero is supposed to do. He takes Veltal's hand, telling him that he can't believe that a day where the hero and Demon Lord are working together has come. Soon, they reach a rather usual part of the city, because according to Taka's data, there is a shortcut here that leads to the furnace. She opens the door for them, but they find that the path is designed like a dungeon and clearing it will take too much time. Taka doesn't have the details of the dungeon, and Veltal only has expertise in creating dungeons. However, Graham has conquered thousands of dungeons in his day, and he uses the skill auto-mapping to instantly scan the entire dungeon using magic and create its mini-map. He tells the surprised Veltal that this is an original spell because he got too tired of exploring dungeons when he was an adventurer. This pisses Veltal off as he asks how could he do that and shit all over the dungeon maker's hard work. They get into a heated debate, and Taka gets tired of their useless yapping, so she screams at them to shut the hell up and focus on finding Machina first. Anyway, Graham's auto-mapping skill finishes its work soon, creating a detailed map of the dungeon. He doesn't see any traps or enemies on the way, so he tells Veltal that they will go with the shortest route. Meanwhile, Taka is busy on another project that has something to do with the information they found at her client's house. She is nervous and thinks that she won't be able to complete it before Veltal finds Machina. She asks him to buy her some time, but he tells her that he has full trust in her that she will succeed within the time limit. Soon, Veltal and Graham take an elevator to reach the immortal furnace, and because of the change in ether density, their signal with Taka gets cut off. Using this chance, Graham decides to have some heart-to-heart conversations with his old enemy. He remarks that Veltal has become stronger, and in response, he asks when did he learn sarcasm, because he is at his weakest right now. Graham says that he is talking about the strength of character, because a weak person would never bow to others to save their underlings. He believes that Veltal is much different now than he was during their final battle, and that change is a good one. Soon, the elevator stops at its final destination, and as Veltal and Graham head inside the furnace building, they find Marcus' secretary waiting for them. Meanwhile, Machina is in the furnace room with her hands tied and Marcus stands in front of her, asking why is she so upset when she just got to meet an old friend. Machina curses him, saying that a traitor like him has no right to call her his friend. Marcus doesn't pay her any mind and says that when Veltal revived, he made his men do some information digging, and he was pleasantly surprised to see that Machina was alive too. He then tells her that she is in front of the immortal furnace right now, which uses a ritual magic to turn the souls of immortals into ether and supplies it to the reactor that fuels the entire city. Machina takes a moment to process what she just heard, and then her rage explodes. Her hair turns red as she releases a vast amount of magic power despite her restraints, but Marcus blocks it all with a barrier. He tells Machina that immortals can't die, even if their body is destroyed, but this machine destroys their soul itself. That means once they are thrown into it, they die once and for all. He then reveals that the first immortal he threw into the furnace was none other than Zenol, one of the 6 Dark Peers. Machina is horrified and outraged, and she swears that she will kill Marcus no matter the price, but he tells her that she won't get the chance to do so because she is going to be used as firewood for this city's prosperity. Back at the entrance, the secretary Kino is holding off Veltal and Graham. She remarks that she never thought that the Demon Lord would actually come here, and what is even more surprising is that he has brought the hero as his partner. Graham tells Veltal to go on ahead because he is going to hold Kino back, because even though he is past his prime, he can easily handle a woman who should be wielding a kitchen knife instead of a sword. Veltal tells this misogynistic idiot to not be overconfident because Kino might be on the level of Zenol in terms of her swordsmanship, and Graham confidently says that it will be child's play in that case as he draws his rusted sword. Kino takes offense to that, and Graham says that he humbled Zenol in a sword duel, so she should not be much difficult to beat either. Kino just says, "Okay, boomer," and then swiftly moves behind Graham, drawing her sword out and attacking him in the same motion. Graham blocks her attack, and Veltal uses this chance to run inside. Kino tries to follow him, but Graham appears in front of her and pushes her back by swinging his sword. Veltal tells him not to die in this fight as he jumps off the edge. Meanwhile, Kino tells Graham that his era has passed away a long time ago, and she will make him a thing of the past too. She suddenly activates a spell that is pretty much like domain expansion, and while Graham is blinded by the light, Kino suddenly attacks him, sending him crashing into the wall behind. He is unharmed by that attack, and finds that Kino is suddenly wearing cool white armor. Graham realizes that it is a Magino gear, and Kino affirms, saying that it is the next-gen Magino gear that their company is working on. Not only is it much smaller and lighter than the previous generation mecha armor, it is more powerful and efficient too. Graham has had enough with her sales pitch, but then he suddenly notices that his hands are trembling after he took the hit from Kino earlier. She suddenly charges at him and begins pushing him down the building, telling him to be honored because he is going to become valuable test data for their next-gen mecha armors. Graham tells her to stop yapping because he never asked her to give her a complete description of a product. Kino just hits him away, telling him that everything about him, from his weapons to his familia, is outdated, while she has the latest technology on her side. Graham tells her to talk after she has won, and Kino appears behind him, unsheathing her sword to release white lightning attack that he somehow blocks. He suddenly notices a pattern in her attack because she sheaths her sword after the attack and the white lightning vanishes. As she draws her sword again, the lightning returns, and this time, Graham easily blocks her attack. He says that technology has really evolved a lot from the last time he fought, but it is not enough to defeat him. He kicks Kino away, and then remarks that he has seen that she needs to sheath her sword between each attack to activate her power. She commends his observation skills, but tells him that just being as sharp as Sherlock Holmes won't get him anywhere. She sheaths her sword again, telling Graham that even if he knows her secret, he won't be able to defeat her. She charges at him, and Graham keeps backing away as he blocks her attacks. Kino decides to change her strategy and attacks him from behind, but he parries that too. He suddenly finds a chance when Kino's sword hits the ground and steps on it to stop her. Immediately after that, he uses an earth-based spell to attack her with rock spikes, but she slashes through them and says that this is useless against her. Graham immediately uses ice magic to freeze her, but Kino melts that off easily too. She tells him that all his attacks are useless, but he just leaps at her and swings his sword with full power. Kino blocks that, but then Graham hits her with a fireball point blank, blowing her away. Despite the powerful blow she took, Kino and her armor are still intact, but her pride is not. Graham hurts it further by saying that the tactics he just used on her were developed 500 years ago, and they still work on her despite her claims to be modern and advanced. Kino is pissed off now, and she charges at Graham recklessly, and this time, he manages to hit her. Kino begins charging her most powerful attack to kill him and says that his rusty sword won't be able to stop this one. Graham tells her that his sword may be rusty right now, but as long as there is someone who needs him to be the hero, it will shine once again. He calls his sword to awaken from its sleep, and one by one, the magic seals on it come undone, revealing its true golden form. Graham tells Kino to witness his power that defeated even the Demon King, and she charges at him, still confident that she can win. Graham simply activates the golden power of his sword and sends a powerful slash towards her. The entire place is filled with a golden blaze, and when it ends, Graham's sword has lost its power and the golden glow. In front of him, Kino is on her knees, and he remarks that her armor is really amazing because it withstood a blow from him. The armor vanishes, and Kino is left holding her injured shoulder as she asks Graham why did she lose. He sits down in front of her and tells her to ask why did he win. She says that it is the same thing, but this egoistic bastard tells her that he won because he has way more experience than her. He says that he feels good after doing something heroic after so long time, and Kino asks if he should not be heading downstairs to help Veltal. He confidently says that Veltal will win on his own, but Kino says that he can't defeat Marcus. She says that Marcus is really strong, and without a familia, Veltal doesn't stand a chance against him, because even she can't fight Marcus without her mecha. Graham just laughs at this, and tells Kino that she is underestimating the Demon Lord if she thinks he went after Marcus without a plan. He then suddenly remembers that he is probably the only living person in the world who has seen Veltal's trump card, and if Marcus sees it, he will probably piss his pants and cry like a little b****. Kino doesn't understand what he is talking about, but Graham guarantees her that Veltal will win the fight. She is dissatisfied with his answer, and then asks if he doesn't plan to kill her. Graham says that there is no need for that because she is not in the shape to fight, and his only job was to let Veltal go to his girl. Suddenly, someone attacks them from above, but Graham notices that in time and creates a magic barrier to protect himself and Kino. The mechas that attack them descend, and Kino is shocked because they belong to her company. Graham realizes that they were trying to get rid of them both, and he gets up to fight them and save the day yet again. Meanwhile, in the furnace room, Marcus is strangling Machina right next to the furnace. He says that he just needs to drop her, and the furnace will do the rest, turning her into energy for the city. He drops her down into the furnace, and as Machina falls, she begins thinking about Veltal and how she never got to tell him that she loves him. But then suddenly, a dark mass descends from above and whisks her to safety. As Machina opens her eyes, she finds herself in Veltal's arms, who tells her that he is here to save her. Veltal places her in a quiet corner and tells her that he will finish things quickly so that they can return home. He then turns around to face Marcus, who says that he has seen his live streams and he realizes that the number of subscribers are giving Veltal power. Veltal asks him if he has any justification for attacking Machina and other immortals before her, and Marcus refuses, treating his questions like a joke. Veltal then asks him if he is willing to serve him once more, but Marcus says he will never do that. Veltal doesn't have anything else to ask him, and he draws his dark sword to finish him. However, Marcus summons his blood swords and attacks him first. Veltal parries all the blood swords, but then Marcus makes them explode. He goes towards Veltal and summons another sword to engage him in close combat, and Veltal charges at him right as the smoke cleared. He tries pushing Marcus back with his physical strength that he has enhanced using magic. Marcus realizes that Veltal used the strengthening spell in advance because he can't cancel that with his familia. However, he beats Veltal in physical strength and forces him to his knees. He then speeds up and launches some rapid attacks on Veltal, but he reads his trajectory and cuts his sword. Veltal thrusts his sword at Marcus' neck. His head blows off and blood splatters everywhere, but then it instantly regenerates. Marcus says that it was a good idea to aim for his familia, but he saw that coming from a mile away. He tells Veltal that he won't ever be able to defeat him without a familia, and then he uses his magic to cause his blood to detonate on Veltal's hands. He keeps causing explosions till Veltal has lost both his hands, and then causes a powerful blast to take him down for good. The Demon Lord falls to his knees, unconscious, and Marcus says that he hoped he would feel much more joy when he finally defeated him, but he isn't feeling anything special. He then goes to Machina, who is stunned speechless that Veltal lost, but then suddenly, she sees something strange. Marcus turns around to check what is going on and finds that Veltal is back on his feet and a dark aura is emanating from his body. Marcus is terrified now, and Veltal praises him, saying that he is the second person in history to force him to use this forbidden power. Veltal asks him for a final time if he is willing to return to his army. He tells Marcus that he will forgive all his crimes till now if he agrees to serve him. But despite his fear, Marcus thinks Veltal is bluffing. He yells that Veltal's era has long passed, and this era belongs to him. He declares that he will be the only immortal in the world and the true Demon King. Veltal has his answer now, and he tells Marcus to die with his pride. Marcus tries attacking him with a blood sword, but his magic doesn't manifest. He gets pushed back as Veltal releases even more power while laughing, telling him that he will get the honor to see his second form that only the hero Graham has seen before. Suddenly, huge spines protrude from his back and muscles start developing around them, and he transforms into a huge monster. Back in the city, Taka has also finished her preparation for her part in Machina's rescue operation. She creates a protective barrier around herself, and then hacks into all the screens around the city, changing them to a video of Veltal's streams. The people suddenly grow curious about the mysterious and handsome man whose face is all over the city, and some of them identify him as the lousy gamer who calls himself the Demon Lord. Taka thinks her job is done with this, because when they were riding the train to this place, Veltal had given her the mission to maximize the public devotion to him. Taka didn't understand what he meant, and Veltal told her to not think about anything and just raise his popularity. She replied that it wouldn't be easy, but Veltal told her to use any means necessary. She asked him if he was sure, and he told her to do whatever she could think of. Taka was delighted to hear that because she always wanted to go all out without having to worry about anyone's disapproval. The way she chose to do her mission was by displaying Veltal's face all around the town, and she thinks that she has done enough to rest now. In the meantime, as people have no choice but to see Veltal on their screens, they start taking interest in him, and his power grows. Back inside the furnace, Veltal finally comes out of the dark cocoon in his second form of a menacing dragonoid warrior. Marcus pisses his pants on seeing this and asks what the hell is happening. Veltal asks him if he ever imagined why his castle was underground, and why he chose the deepest floor in the castle to fight Graham. He says that it was so that he could take this form to fight him. Veltal explains that he can take this form only if he has the faith of his followers and a large amount of high-density ether that is drawn directly from the earth. He tells Marcus that he fumbled the bag when he didn't kill him on the day he was revived. He asks him to fear him more because it will only add to his strength, and Marcus tells him to shut up. He says that no matter what form he takes, Veltal lost to the hero 500 years ago, and he can't win this time either. He summons a blood sword to attack him, but his magic circles keep vanishing before producing results. Marcus freaks out, wondering what is happening to him, and Veltal tells him that it is the same thing that he does to cancel others' magic attacks. Marcus suddenly realizes that Veltal is casting magic by skipping all the steps, and that means he is even faster than the most advanced familia. He refuses to believe that because he has never heard of something like that, but Veltal tells him that he has too much to see and learn. He says that in his second form, his abilities increase manifold, and he copied the powers of the familia and improved on them, which gave him the ability to cast magic just by thinking about it. Veltal thanks Marcus for this because he improved technology to this point, and he used that as a base to improve himself and reach the new pinnacle of casting magic without any steps. Marcus is unable to believe this, and he tries summoning blood swords to attack Veltal again, but it doesn't work. On top of that, Veltal shuts down his familia. Marcus curses him, but then Veltal causes a blast inside his mouth and then chops him up with wind magic, before hitting him with fire magic and ultimately freezing him in ice. He then attacks him with his sword, shattering the ice. Marcus falls to the ground and recovers from the damage, but Veltal has more horrifying punishment for him. He uses his magic to summon creepy puppets from the ground that overwhelm Marcus. He tells Veltal to stop them, but he laughs, saying that there are no puppets, and what he is seeing is an illusion he fed directly into his mind by hacking his familia. Marcus can't believe that someone can hack into his advanced familia, and Veltal laughs, saying that he picked up this trick from Taka. Marcus starts getting cornered by the illusions even more badly, and he begs Veltal to stop them. He pledges loyalty to him and says that he will serve him, but Veltal says that ship has already sailed. He stabs Marcus, saying that he already asked him twice, and there is no third time. He takes him over to the furnace, and Marcus freaks out, asking if he is going to turn him into firewood. Veltal affirms, saying that feeding him to the furnace will keep the city running a bit longer, and he can use that time to think of new solutions. Marcus, the hypocrite, lashes at him, asking how can he be so cruel as to feed a companion to the furnace, and Veltal reminds him that he is the Demon Lord, and being cruel is one of his job descriptions. Marcus cuts his hand on the sword and throws his blood at Veltal to detonate it, but his sneak attack doesn't do any damage. Veltal calls him a pitiful loser as he begins sliding him down the sword, and then throws him into the furnace, where Marcus dissolves in the pool of magic liquid and feeds the furnace. Veltal returns to his normal form, and he asks Machina if she is terrified of him after seeing his second form, and she begins praising him, saying that he was as scary as the Demon Lord should be. She thanks him for saving her, and as Veltal walks towards her, he says that he could only do so because it was her. He finally realizes why he was so desperate when she was taken, and begins caressing her face gently. Machina gets emotional at his touch, and then tightly hugs him. Veltal tells her that he loves her, and Machina replies that she loves him too. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and watch the video on your screen next.